Disclaimer: the views expressed by the host of Insider Exchange do not necessarily represent those of our clients, sponsors, partners, or guests and should not be considered investment advice in any way. Similarly, the views and opinions of our guests and clients do not necessarily reflect those of our hosts or on our platform. Nothing shared on this platform should be read as constituting investment advice of any kind on the part of Insider Exchange. Any of its hosts, guests, partners, or sponsors trading and investing carry varying levels of risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Please ensure you fully understand the risk and take appropriate care to manage your risk. We strongly advise that you obtain independent financial, legal, and tax advice from regulated professionals and institutions before proceeding with investing decisions. Can I go and play now?
Wanted to be December.
Hello and welcome back to Insider Exchange. It is a new year. We still feel like it's the old year. We're ready for December and nothing much has changed.
No. Hello, I suppose. Except I'm 3 weeks in and I got to say, so far, nah.
Wanna go? We're done, right?
Done.
This is like the 17th week of January. Like you're saying, it's not getting any easier to get through the month, the year. I thought coming into the year we'd actually have a decent start to the year. Things would have calmed down. And the worst bit of information I found out last week was that we've only just finished 365 days of Donald Trump being the president. We've only gone through the first year. We haven't even officially, we're only starting the second year now.
Correct. So hopefully come November he gets neutered, and hopefully before that the Supreme Court newts him as well with his tariffy thing. But
there's no hope. We're in for it, folks. We're in for more of the same. And in keeping with tradition, we're going to get into some of our conversations. Today, we're going to be looking at our outlook for 2026 in our deep dive. Sai and I are going to try and figure out how we think the year could potentially shape up and some of the factors that might drive that. Wait for Make It Make Sense, because there's a lot to try and make sense of. Most of it, obviously, related to the Orange Mussolini as we know him. But we'll get into that as well. We'll get into our useful updates as we always do. Let's kick things off. Let's get the show on the road.
Outside of 98, our currency is collapsing.
Privilege of welcoming one of our good friends into studio.
So not even Buffett listens to Buffett. Sue me, China, if you must.
1 or 22 on AC, but you're not getting that at home.
And there's quite a bit to discuss.
The stock is cheap.
The last podcast I did.
Oh, introduce me.
I'm Jimmy Moyaha.
And I'm Simon Brown.
Welcome to Insider Exchange.
Straight into useful updates. Folks that don't know what this is about, this is myself and Simon trying to make sense of, or trying to update you rather, on as many things as we possibly can in 8 minutes. We don't have time. The timer's already going. We didn't even know that. Look at that. We've already lost 8 seconds straight into it. So, the South African Reserve Bank reviewing the premium.
I did not know, because you've spoken about this often.
We do good work.
We're always ahead of the curve. I did not know that actually SARB sets that 3.5%. It's not the banks that are ripping us, it's SARB. And now they want to revisit it. The banks are like, hey, new phone, who's this?
Do you know what? We spoke about this on one of the episodes towards the end of last year, and I want to quickly just wrap this one up on that, is when I sat down with the SARB governor and I questioned this in that chat that we had, the deputy governors and the governor were all there. I don't want to say they listened to me, but I'm going to take this as a win.
Dude, take it. Absolutely.
Absolute win,
Put
right?
it on your CV.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I don't know that it means interest, that your debt comes down.
No.
But anyway, it does mean that when one day when I repos at 3.5 and they're taking 3.5, it seems like they are price gouging. So
we've got an update. It might be under review. It might be cancelled. We don't know. Next update. The World Economic Forum. I don't even know if we've got enough time to reflect on this. We walked into the World Economic Forum. There were threats of tariffs. There were threats that if we don't give Greenland over as a world, everything's going to... And then we got the first taco trade of the year.
Yeah, I know. It didn't take long. There were two things from there. I watched Trump's speech. I don't often watch him talk. It was immensely boring, frustrating. It has gutter racism in it. I mean, not even just gutter racism. The man, yeah. And then, of course, before that, you watched Carney, who is the exact opposite.
Polar opposite, yeah.
I think states should secede to Canada.
Oh.
Send a letter to the White House. Cheers, guys. We're out of here.
So you're saying Canada should adopt US states. Oh, that could be interesting.
You get healthcare and all sorts.
You do, because it's Canada. They're lovely. Next update. Fed Chair Jerome Powell under investigation. So we're just going to stick with US updates for a moment.
So Trump messed up on this one. Because remember, Powell's out in May as chair.
Yes.
But he's got 2 more years on the board. And I've sat in boards, and there's always like a lot of people who talk, and then someone with status talks, and Powell is that person. Trump's not worried about between now and May. He's worried about the next 2 years. And I very much think Powell was like leaving in May, and now he's like, nah, fam.
Do you know what's interesting about that? Very interesting timing on those boards, as you mentioned, because the Fed, for those that aren't clued up, the Fed is made up of the governors of various states. Some states matter more than others in the hierarchy of things, but certain key states went into early re-elections of their officials to extend their terms ahead of the May stepping down of Trump, of Jerome Powell, which means Trump is not out of the woods yet. But that's the update on that, because we're running out of time and we have to claw back some time. Next update. The Saudi Arabian stock market set to open the 1st of February next week will mark the beginning of the Saudi Arabian stock exchange being open to other investors.
Oh, it's always been there.
Yes. They're just opening it up to the world.
And what do they have I could buy?
Oil.
Lots
of oil.
Can I short oil? Is that allowed?
I wonder
in
where
Saudi
Saudi
Arabia?
Aramco is listed. Is Saudi Aramco not listed in Saudi Arabia?
But
It has to have a primary listing there and a secondary in the US, I'm guessing.
Probably, yeah, that would make sense.
So that's one company that stands out, but surely there are other companies there as well. I suppose from an update perspective, anyone looking to potentially get into the Saudi Arabian stock market or Saudi Arabian equities would be happy to know that for the 1st of February, you'd be able to do that.
Saudi Arabia Stock Exchange. That's where Saudi Aramco is.
There we go. So you can finally invest in Saudi Aramco and the Formula One, effectively. Next update. British American Tobacco shutting down their South African plant.
Yeah.
After 51 years.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, I don't trust corporates, particularly when they blame governments, and I don't trust governments, particularly when they blame corporates. It's a complicated thing. And, my question is it because less people are smoking, or is it because of illegal cigarettes, or is it a bit of both? And
they say it's illegal cigarettes.
Of course
I caught up with them and they say the illicit market is 75% of trade now. And they're saying, why should we, as the ethical operator, only operate ethically for the remaining 25%?
Well, and the point is their plant is not being utilised, so
it's not being utilised to its full capacity. They say at this point
they should sell it
they're
to one
only
of
at
their
30% capacity. Yeah. So that's one thing. Alongside that, I thought we'd just throw that in while we're here. We've got 10 seconds to. Cherry and Nissan taking over that plant.
I see that. Yeah, Cherry taking the Rosslyn Nissan plant.
Well, Nissan's got its own problems at a group
when we
level.
lived in Durban, on the beach when I was kids, I was 4 or 5, and there would be boats, and if I was bad, my mother would say, it's the Russians coming, and then I would be good. Man, it's the Chinese.
It's the Chinese. We would ordinarily take a break as we go through this session. We're not going to do that.
We have no
because
snacks.
we have no snacks. It's too much time. We're too stressed out. It's the new year. Too much is going on. Audi joining Formula One.
Yeah, and Chrysler. Or is this the same?
No.
And Chrysler.
But no one cares about Chrysler.
Oh, do we care about Audi?
Yes.
No, we care about Ferrari.
German engineering.
And now Ferrari's going to not...
Yeah, but Ferrari's now painted their cars white.
All this means, so that they're trying to hide. All this means is that Ferrari can now come 24th instead of 20th. Just saying. Love you, Lewis, but that car...
But they've got a new car. Ferrari's got a new car, and maybe, just maybe, they figured it out.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
it's a big maybe.
And it's white.
And it's white.
Make it make sense.
Can't. Next update. The richest South African, Johan Rupert. Possibly the richest African at this point. I believe his net worth.
More than Dangote.
I believe the net worth
possible.
is. He's chasing down a new club. The $20 billion club.
Yo. Christopher Wiese was close to that, eh? No, I think he got to like 15 and then he got Steinhoff.
I don't know if he got that close. Okay. Last we checked, Johan Rupert was sitting around the $13 billion mark, or the $11 billion went up to about 13 or so. But over the last year and a bit, maybe a year and a half, it's jumped by that other $6 or $7 billion, thanks to luxury stocks. He's just shy of 20 billion, probably around the $19 billion mark.
A big day from Richmond and he's there.
One big day from there and he's there. Let's wrap this up with the final useful update, which will probably lead us right into our deep dive. And we have a minute in a bit for that, and that is the commodity supercycle.
Yo.
All-time highs everywhere.
Copper, silver, gold, platinum, all at highs. So this is just a debasement trade. People can't get their money out of the US fast enough, which makes sense. If you keep on killing citizens in your streets, it's bad for, if you're Iran, it's bad. If you're America, really, really bad. Man, this stuff is insane. The price, gold, 5,000. I had it on my radar for the year, but I didn't think January.
I called this on the radio, and I said, guys, based on where the gold price is sitting at the time, it was still at 4.6, 4.7ish. I said we could see $5,000 of finance in the very near future, and I even went as bold as to say in Q1 of the year. I didn't think month one. I really didn't think month one.
Week 3.
Yeah, week 3.
Week 4, okay. But
week 72, depending on which part of January.
You're counting.
We have 14 seconds left, which means, thankfully for us, we've gone through useful updates. Sai and I are not in trouble because, as you know, if we don't get through these updates in time, there is a penalty we have to face that we don't yet know because we've always made it in time. And that's the buzzer! Moving on to our deep dive, we are diving into the 2026 year. Simon and I are going to be sharing what we think could be moving the markets this year as we do a 2026 outlook. It is the first time we're getting to have some of these conversations. Some of them we've been having on other platforms. We have been discussing some of these moves that we've been keeping an eye on, but we are going to bring those to you, our insider community. And I want to start off with where we left off our useful updates. If you've missed that, go check that out. We looked at the commodity cycle. The gold price has just clocked $5,000 finance. Silver's above $100. It could be above 1,000 very soon. We never know. The platinum price is chasing down $3,000 a fine ounce. These are levels we have never seen. Ever. In all cases. And look, I've lived through commodity super cycles before, but we went through one in 2021, didn't we? Coming out of the pandemic. But that seems like a mini cycle compared to this one.
And I'd look at the one in the early 2000s. And this one's different.
It is.
The speed and power. Copper's there as well. And the speed at which this is happening and it's actually just wild. It's totally wild. And it is, and we said in the updates, and we talk around, what's driving it. Everything that was in play and driving it is still there, and now there's more coming into it as well. There are concerns. When does this become inflationary? Because typically it should do at some point, perhaps. When does it collapse? Which typically it should do at some point. But for now, man, oh man.
But these are the concerns we had around AI. These are the concerns we had around evaluations. These are the concerns we had around the US economy and going into recession. I'm starting to think that at this point, the way in which markets are running is to play catch up to those valuation concerns so that we don't have markets explode, so that we don't have a bubble. This is almost filling the bubble, so to speak. And the only way you do that is by injecting fresh liquidity into the markets, right? So
fair enough.
From an institutional point, if we push up commodity prices, then, that will then boost other sectors, other markets, and then you'll sort of get that general lift in everything else. Of course, there is that other conspiracy theory that based on what one of the US banks was holding in the amount of shorts on silver, they can't afford for the silver price to stay low, and they're holding too many short contracts, and that's causing a big squeeze in the trillions, and that could bankrupt that bank. Now, we know from a US perspective, that wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world. They've bailed out many things before, including their own economy, so there wouldn't be too much of a concern there. But I think we're starting to potentially see every other market and new liquidity. When you look at it from what we're seeing now, it's being formed out of nowhere, Si. It's not being formed from money that's currently in circulation. It's not being formed from reserves that financial institutions have had or whatever. It's almost coming out of nowhere, and that could potentially now be a catalyst to create new reserves, right? So if I'm holding gold bars and I've been holding the gold bars for however long. My balance sheet has had that predetermined number on it. As the gold price increases, my balance sheet now looks better, which now means I have more money to go buy more gold bars with, right? Michael Saylor, Bitcoin, typical example of that as well.
And central bankers, who are the classic sort of treasury companies, although they are gold and US treasury companies as opposed to Bitcoin. And you know, that it gives an underpinning. Now, they must be price sensitive at some point, but that price
not
sensitivity,
if you're all on the same boat.
Well, exactly, and at some point you've got to. I mean, I'm sure at 4,000 the central bankers were like, "Ooh, maybe let's not be buyers." Now at 5,000 they're like, "Oh."
And if you look at where markets sit at the moment, if there's a universal consensus, right? Same way with every other international market, where we all agree that the gold price moving up, we're comfortable with. We're not going to put a ceiling on it. We're not going to regulate. We're just going to let it move up wherever, right? Central banks are scrambling to stockpile those reserves because those reserves underpin their own currencies. If all of the central banks are on the same page to say whatever the gold price gets to is whatever it gets to, we'll deal with that later, then you almost ignore inflation. You almost ignore the implicit implications thereof, because who determines inflation? How is inflation set?
Well, I mean, you absolutely do. And the point is, and just quick an aside, where's Bitcoin in all of this? Bitcoin's supposed to be at this party, and Bitcoin is not. It is not, which is telling. But there is... And there's also that whole thing as things start to move. You know, so 5 years ago, you couldn't get me to buy gold. Now I own gold and gold miners, and I'm loving it. But there's still people out there who like, you know, I know fund managers who were exiting their gold positions 6 months ago, and now they're
now they regret it. Because 6 months ago, we were below $4,000 of finance.
We were 3,000 and change. I mean, it was nothing.
And now we're calling 7,000.
And I mean, I don't know. We're calling upwards.
Yes.
But to your point, and so there is momentum here, and momentum's a powerful thing. And at some point, the momentum fades, and it'll fade at a higher level. Someone was chirping me that gold's going back to 2,400, and I have to say, I can't see what gets gold back to 2,400, because we have to be clear. There's a lot of reasons driving this, but what's driving it more than anything is what's happening in America right now, and that genie is not going back in that bottle.
And even if it does, so. We come out of that situation, and Donald Trump says, "I'm no longer going to impose tariffs on any country in the world. We're going to go back to the way things are." It goes directly against MAGA. It goes directly against the whole campaign trail.
No one believes him. No one trusts America again. Fool me once, twice, but not thrice.
You're about to head into midterm elections from an American perspective, right? So. America, one of the largest economies in the world, has self-interest to ensure that the gold price remains where it does, especially with the collapsing dollar or with the weakening dollar as we see it. At the same time, the other big economy in the world is China, and they are the only country, or one of the only countries, that actually produces their jewelry in 24-karat gold. Do you think they're going to be happier with a gold price that's higher or lower? Obviously, they're not going to contest the fact either. So if the major economies aren't contesting this, the only thing I see from this is we should be mining more gold in South Africa. Wow. Given that 40% of the world's gold came from us, we should be taking more of it out of the earth.
The problem with is that we took that 40%, and any good miner would tell you mine the easy stuff first.
Yes. It's the difficult stuff.
Now it's the difficult stuff. But there is those guys you spoke to who just...
Yes, Kala Shallows.
Yeah, who
but
mining.
Still have easy stuff. Look, the nice thing about the South African market and the African continent is even if we go into mining the difficult stuff, look at Harmony. We're the only country capable of digging a gold mine so far into the earth that it is the deepest mine in the world.
Yeah, and to be clear, I remember my brother-in-law used to be in oil, and he would often talk around, they made a giant discovery, and he's like, I need $200. Without $200, it's worthless. Yeah. There is gold out there, which everyone was like, yeah, that gold's worthless. Not anymore.
But we are getting a bit sidetracked. I think that's part of the conversation in our outlook and how we're approaching this year. But I don't think that's the only thing. I think there are other factors. When I look at the markets, there are other driving factors that we're going to see start to play out in the market sphere. We're seeing markets almost revert back to the old norm. You made a joke about it before we started recording, saying that you're hearing music you haven't heard in a while. You're seeing things that you haven't seen in a while, and I've been noticing that as well, especially in the market sense that we're regressing back to what fundamentals used to be, the basics.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the episodes that we recorded this episode probably towards the middle of last year, and I asked you, Sai, whether or not we could potentially find ourselves going back to the gold standard. And
so I got to say, so carry on your thought, because
in this day and age, right? I'm not saying we're going to go back to the gold standard, but the way things are happening, the way change is almost resetting to the things that we know. We're no longer dealing in hypotheticals and theoreticals. We lived in a time where intangible assets were the rage. You could price your IP at whatever you wanted and all of those sorts of things. And companies like Tesla built themselves up on theoretical sales values that they hadn't yet realized. You're now finding investors starting to go back to saying, we're investing in fundamentals. We're not investing in forecasts. We're not investing in what you can and can't achieve. Yes, the AI craze is still there and that's still happening, but the AI challenges are coming up just as real in the form of data centers and the ability to store information, right? So that's creating real world conundrums that I think are having investors rethink what is important and what is value.
Agreed. And putting the genie back in the bottle of the gold standard, I would have said to you is impossible, simply because there's now more cash than there is gold. But then gold goes to 5,000 and suddenly it's like, well, maybe there isn't more cash than there's gold. I mean, America still hasn't revalued their gold. It still sits at whatever, $40-something.
But if they do,
they've suddenly got, and then maybe they actually have. Look at that. Look, I mean, because we took some, remember, what's that thing called? We took some money out of our account 2 years ago, where the gold prices, the money that SARB holds is valued at
yes,
X.
Yes, the GFACRA account.
That's what it is.
The gold and foreign exchange reserve account.
That thing.
And we use that to pay down some debts and sort out our lives. That came in quite handy.
So that is, I mean, for some countries, they might suddenly fund themselves with their gold more. And it's like, looky.
Right. Now,
it does make your gold miners your central bankers, and that scares me.
That does, right? And in the case of the United States, fine, let's say we rebase and revalue our gold, and that increases our balance sheet as a country. Great. What does that do for our US dollar, which is on the other side of that gold trade? Because it's pricing the gold, right? So what does that do for the value of
Well, so here's another debate. Do we not need to...
Because if you're going to settle, if America is going to say, we're going to settle our own debt in gold because we've now rebased our gold, then the world's going to say, so you don't want to use dollars. Why should we?
The world's kind of saying that already.
Exactly.
I mean, look at the dollar index.
Catch-22 for America at the point.
Yeah, no. I mean, it is. I mean, very much so. And that the world is saying, like, we don't want dollar. And that comes back to why everyone wants gold instead.
So from an outlook perspective, how does that then start to influence? You made a very important point saying if gold miners are the new central bankers, then you've got reason and cause to be concerned. How does that then affect how we see markets? Because gold miners, mining companies in general, if you're mining any of the commodities that are hot right now, copper, anything of that sort, you're going to make more money. You're doing the same level of input. You are maintaining the same level of cost, you're maintaining the same level of output, you're just getting paid infinitely more for that output than before. Now, the smart thing here is to pay down debt, which is what some of the miners are doing, because you get yourself out of debt and then your business looks great for when the cycle turns. The question then becomes, what happens if it doesn't turn?
Dividends like raining, like, good Joburg hailstorm, except in this case it's dividends. Because you're right, so Pan-African just came on and they just had an update. Their debt is down, 90% or something. They've got like $40 million left of debt and they'll pay it by February. In other words, Monday. Let's be clear. And then they are debt free. And so they're giving us a 12-cent dividend. ZAR cents, guys. Anyway, but we're seeing the debt just vanish. To be clear, in 24, the gold miners got an average price of around 2,400. This year they get an average price. They're going to get an average price north of 4,400. In other words, their revenues doubled. But to be clear, their profits haven't doubled because at 2,200 they had costs of, let's call it 1,800. They were making $400 a time. Let's say costs go to $2,000. They get an average of 44. They go from $400 an ounce to $2,400 per ounce. There's $2,000 extra per ounce.
But you say the profits haven't doubled, but even in that
They've more than doubled. They've gone up sixfold.
And not yesterday, last year when we were wrapping up the show, you mentioned that the likes of Sibanye-Stillwater had done 250% in a single year in share price appreciation. So what's going to happen to the share prices there? But I don't want to only focus on those guys, because I don't think that returns in 2026 are going to come solely from the miners. I don't want to say put your eggs in one basket, go all in on mining, and then your concentration risk is off and you're kind of in that one space. I think there's a lot that is still out there from a valuations perspective. We spoke about retailers and whether or not this could be their year, whether or not they could start coming back to the party. I think that's still down to things like discretionary spend and how markets perceive that. Do we think the AI theme is going to continue? I start to see it branching out, but I want to get your thoughts on whether or not you think we're still going to continue the way it has up to this point.
Yeah, I think we are. I think it will, and I think we'll. Here's a fun fact: there's no pure AI play in listed markets. You can get Microsoft, you can get Nvidia, but you can't buy an AI only company. And I think we'll get Anthropic and probably OpenAI. I think both of them are going to list this year. I think there's still upside to the AI play. I think there absolutely is. I'm not sure necessarily about what we, the sort of returns we've seen in recent, Google more than doubled last year, but it's not the 16 PE it was. But Jensen Huang at CES this year, he of course Nvidia. So they're talking about chips and stuff. They've got their new chip coming. It's more powerful. It's more power efficient, etc. But he also spoke a whole bunch around their car tech, autonomous driving. That's the next space that he wants to own, and there ain't no one there yet who's ready for it. So I still think there's AI trade there. Now the problem is that the AI companies, Anthropic is more B2B, OpenAI is B2C and B2B. Their revenue models are sketchy, let's say, but that's fine. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when Meta couldn't get mobile working, and we're just making money on the web, not on mobile. They might not work it out, but I don't think we're there yet. I don't think this party's over, not by a long way. And to be clear, last year only 2 of the Mag 7 beat the S&P.
Do you know what scares me about the AI conversation or the AI theme and trend is the revenue side of it, as you're mentioning, because we're all happy to put down the capex, right? But at some point, that capex needs to translate into something, right?
Yeah.
And you can't increase subscribers if they're not increasing in subscription value and they're increasing in number.
$20.
You have to then assume that everybody's going to then take the subscription, right? So for me, if I'm looking at the AI conversation and the AI trends and themes, the only place I could think of that makes sense to me is the data centers, is putting the money into, because you, as a data center investor, you're agnostic of who uses your facility, which AI company is on board with you, and whether or not that AI company makes money selling their subscriptions. They still have to rent the data. They still have to use your facilities to house their information to continue to exist and offer a product. So for me, that part of the value chain, I still see value in if we are still on the AI bandwagon. Yeah. And I would put more stock on that for me.
I agreed, but also we saw TSMC results when they spoke about they spending 59 billion, and at the same time ASML popped because much of that 59 billion goes to ASML. We've got ASML results, I think, Wednesday before market open. There's a lot. Would I want to be OpenAI in this point? No, because I was on ChatGPT. I really liked it, and then Gemini arrived. ChatGPT, not getting my $20 anymore. Now Gemini gets it.
Yeah.
And as soon as someone's better than Gemini, then
you'll move on to that.
I'm on again.
That's it. So we'll constantly be moving from a consumer point of view. But what we won't be moving is all of these companies have the same common element. They have to store the data somewhere, right?
They have to put the data somewhere.
Right.
It's a fun thing I heard on the weekend. So Musk was saying, what did he say? Data centers in space within 3 years. And someone said, really,
why does Musk want to put everything in space?
Because he's got a space company.
Although it would solve the cooling problem.
Well, not as much as you think. Not as much as you think, because you've got other issues like radiation and...
Yeah, but they're sitting outside of your atmosphere.
But the sun. But
that's true. That is true. But also...
And also
now we create a new problem. Lag. The time for the information to go from here to bounce off of that server to come back. But even with his satellites, now he wants us to use his satellites.
Starlink's kind of got that lag, not as bad as you would. I mean, you can game via Starlink. I know people who do.
But think about the sheer amount of people on Earth,
all
using ChatGPT at the same time, requiring the same, as it is already when you use ChatGPT, it says thinking a bit longer and then trying to give you a better answer. I don't think putting data centers in space solves that problem. But putting them in the ocean, maybe.
What I liked about it was they said, what Musk says will probably happen, but ignore his timelines. Didn't he promise autonomous vehicles?
Yes, he promised us flying vehicles, didn't he?
Probably.
He said autonomous, but didn't he also say flying? I don't know.
Probably.
Maybe he did.
I don't want flying vehicles. I've seen how people drive.
Well, if they're flying autonomously, that's a new set of problems. Folks, that's the deep dive. We're going to leave it on that note. There is far too much to dive into. We will continue to start to break down these sectors as we get into the rest of the year, start to identify what it is that we're liking. If you've been listening to the conversation and you haven't been paying attention, this has not been financial advice. I just thought I'd remind you of that carefully. We're going to move on to our Make It Make Sense because, wow, $6 billion of trying to make sense of things is just where we're going to start. So stick around for that. And we're wrapping things up with our Make It Make Sense. We're going to try and make sense of some of the developments that have been unfolding. And I think we might actually be able to. I think we might start off the year on a good note. Si, the first one I saw was, I don't know if it's legitimate or not, or AI, because now you'd never really know if something's AI or not. And it was a little tin container that was selling for 150 Rand. And the label on the tin container said Cape Town Air.
Whoa, that is so clever. I've seen these type of things before, but like usually your family would
legit.
Your family would go to like, somewhere interesting and they would bring you back some polluted air. And weirdly, when you open it after 10 years, it's all gungy inside because, Cape Town Air for $150.
We're selling air now? Really? Really?
Who are we selling it to? Because the suckers...
Tourists. Who else are you going to sell it to?
Okay, I was going to say, because the suckers are the Cape Townians. No, dude, I saw a garage. It's still got a car in it. And they want you to rent it to sleep in. Like you got to sleep under the car or in the car. Or I don't know.
You can't sleep on the car.
Air for $150.
I don't know if it's legit. I just saw the thing online in passing and I just kept it moving. Speaking of which, we're going to keep things moving. This is a weird interlink, right? There's a couple of Make It Make Sense comments that we're going to get into, all centered around one thing. Obviously, all centered around Orange Mussolini. But three separate events, seemingly unrelated, could now be related. Travel with me, Sai. Let's do this.
Let's do this. I'm keen.
Number one, the Nobel. We know that President Trump wasn't awarded the Nobel. Following that, he was awarded the FIFA Peace Prize that was made up for him. Or whatever. Yeah. We'll circle back to that another day. Then, the recipient of the Nobel was the leader of the opposition in Venezuela, who then subsequently gifted her Nobel that she earned to President Trump in hopes that he would appoint her the new president of... We don't know why. That's not the point. But that part of it then triggers, ahead of the gathering in Davos, triggers a text conversation between President Trump and the Prime Minister of Norway. And I'm not one to... Wherever I can, I try not to misquote people. So let me read this out to you, Simon. This is the response that President Trump supposedly wrote, according to the BBC, not according to me, to the Prime Minister of Norway regarding the Nobel. Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States. So, you didn't get the Peace Prize. You threw your toys out the cot about wars you didn't stop.
Yeah.
And then, this was, again, this now provides context as to what was happening here. This was in relation to Greenland.
Yes.
Right? And
which must have confused that poor Norway man. No,
absolutely.
Because he probably knows geography.
Now, the Greenland conversation... Now, the Greenland conversation was interesting because President Trump then went on to threaten the world, effectively. Europe mostly, but the world. If I don't get Greenland, this is what's happening. He started out, before the threats of tariffs, he started out with saying, I'll buy Greenland. He said he'd offer every Greenland citizen, all 57,000 of them, up to $100,000 each. At $100,000 at 57,000 citizens, $5.7 billion.
Cheap. But
cheap. Very cheap in the context of a $34 trillion.
Does the rest of Denmark get to vote? It's like when the Cape wants to leave, the rest of South Africa is like, yeah, guys, we get to vote too.
Yeah, we don't know that.
Okay.
So that plan didn't work out. Then the threat of tariffs came out. Then the taco trade, Trump chickening out, came out. And now Greenland, for now, has maintained their sovereignty, right? But this brought me to how it all pieces together, is the make it make sense part of it, right? At the same time, President Trump is suing JP Morgan Chase for $5 billion for debanking him. Now, to be clear, JP Morgan's debanking rules, if you are someone who poses reputational risk from that perspective, they've got a set of rules around all of that. They gave Trump reasons why they are debanking him. But Simon, the $5 billion from JP Morgan could pay for purchasing Greenland. And then Trump could just have Mar-a-Lago in Greenland. Maybe that's why.
Actually, that's not a bad idea, to move Mar-a-Lago to Greenland.
Make it make sense. I think we've made sense of one.
Yeah.
It's four different ones that all come together, but this is it.
Okay. Mar-a-Lago and Greenland. It's cold, eh?
Well, he'll find that out when he gets there. The other conversation as well around, and I don't know if we spoke about this in detail, but President Trump is also suing the United States Department of Defense. He's suing his own government.
But that's easy, right? Because when you sue your own government and then you just phone up whoever that government lackey is and say, don't defend, just pay. He's actually onto a good wicket there.
It's the one of the individuals that's involved in this from a U.S. Department of Defense perspective is the same individual who represented him when the government was coming after him the first time. So it's his former attorney that is now appointed to, I believe, the deputy of the Department of Defense.
There we go.
Well, not Department of Defense, sorry. Department of Justice.
This is so clever. Yeah, you just sue yourself, I mean, the government that you work for, and get a lackey to approve it. Man, the Oak's going to be the first trillionaire. Elon Musk has got no chance.
So, we're trying to make sense of numbers.
Okay.
I think we've made sense of why Trump wanted Greenland, because he thought he could potentially buy it with the JP Morgan settlement. I doubt that the two events are directly linked, but someone has to. I mean, surely the $5 billion rand seems awfully $5 billion seems awfully convenient. That's how much he's suing JP Morgan for. At the same time, someone's done a calculator exercise to say, if I pay everybody $100,000 in Greenland, this is how much it's going to cost me.
Yeah,
I suppose there's no transfer fees when you're dealing with land, right? If it's country related.
I guess not.
Who do you pay the transfer fees to?
I don't know. Yeah.
How does it all work?
But also, I mean, you paid the people. Does Denmark get some cash? No.
I don't think so.
You see them? This is.
Maybe they get an extra amount. Maybe they get the $300 million and then it puts it up at around $6 billion number.
Fun fact. America has a treaty which allows them to put as many military personnel in Greenland as they want.
Oh.
They used to have 10, 20,000. They only now have 200. Greenland is littered with abandoned American bases. And if you want to go mine one of their minerals, all you need to do is apply for a permit.
Well, most countries just need a mining permit. Some countries make it harder than others to obtain the permit.
Yes, we're looking at you, sir.
But, did we make sense of this? Does this make sense? I don't know.
I think
between the Nobel and Greenland and JP Morgan.
Somehow the Cape Town Air made more sense.
Cape Town Air makes more sense, doesn't it? It does. 150 Rand Cape Town Air. Good to go. No worries about whether or not someone's going to build a military base in your air.
Excellent. Yes.
There we go. We've made sense of it. Let's make it make sense. We're going to leave the conversation on that note. We're also going to leave the show on that note. But, of course, we would dare not leave you without the first unfiltered opinion of the year. This week's unfiltered opinion. And it's a question, right? It's a question for you, Sai. It's a question for you, our insider community. If you were to take a huge loan from a bank and leave the country without paying for that loan, what is the worst they could do? Now, before you answer, Sai, in countries like the UAE, they are very strict on things, they'll happily finance your luxury Ferrari and they'll let you do it. But if you miss the payments on that, you go to jail. Or you're not allowed to leave the country. They stop you at the airport. They're very good at that system and it's very efficient. So what you often find is a lot of people will then purchase the vehicle. When they realize they're not going to be able to make the payment, they'll subsequently purchase a ticket out of the country, leave the vehicle unattended before the
apparently there's
installment.
loads of them at the airport.
Absolutely. And the reason for that is because people park them at the airport, get on a plane and never come back. Unfortunately, what it means is that if you ever want to return back to that country, you are on a permanent list and they will find you eventually.
Yeah, there's lots of countries that you can flip through.
Right. Now, South Africa, in our own sparkling personality, might have different sets of laws around that. And that's the question, right? What's the worst they could do?
What's the worst surely banks have... So we don't have debtors' jail, so they can't... I don't know. I'm happy to try. Where would I go? I would have to
Somewhere
go...
with a beach.
Well, I was thinking Mozambique, but that beach almost got washed away.
Malta. I've been to Malta. They've got lots of beach.
How cold is that water?
The water's Mediterranean, so you've kind of got bits and pieces here and there. But you've probably got 300 plus days of summer. And I know you like that more than you like winter.
Malta.
That's the unfiltered opinion of the week, folks. That's where we're going to leave the show. Remember, investing isn't hard. Just try it.
Disclaimer. The views expressed by the host of Insider Exchange do not necessarily represent those of our clients, sponsors, partners, or guests and should not be considered investment advice in any way. Similarly, the views and opinions of our guests and clients do not necessarily reflect those of our hosts or on our platform. Nothing shared on this platform should be read as constituting investment advice of any kind on the part of Insider Exchange. Any of its hosts, guests, partners, or sponsors trading and investing carry varying levels of risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Please ensure you fully understand the risk and take appropriate care to manage your risk. We strongly advise that you obtain independent financial, legal, and tax advice from regulated professionals and institutions before proceeding with investing decisions. Can I go and play now?